welcome to Conversations. I'm Lena Hawkins, Public Relations Representative for the M.L. Baker Private Branch.
And I'm Michael DiPietro, Managing Agent of the ConSec Performance Research Laboratory. Today's topic will be the archive, and we'll be discussing recent mergers and acquisitions of our respective companies. So Lena, tell me about this archive you've been creating.
Well, the archive is comprised of rare and other non-circulating materials.
Oh wow, that's fascinating. Tell me a little bit more.
Well, we're specifically interested in the documentation of the destruction and reconstruction of memory, captured through photography, film, and performance art. Michael, how did you find out about the M.L. Baker Private Branch?
Well, I was contacted by a representative in your acquisitions department, and as I began researching in the archive, I began to ask, why this image? What comes before this image? What comes after it? And I began to realize that our processes had quite a bit of overlap.
Fascinating. Tell me about your processes at the Performance Laboratory.
Well, over at the ConSec Performance Laboratory, we're specifically interested in the ideas of Guy Debord and his Society of the Spectacle. This idea that we live in a society saturated by images, and the idea that performing into and through images could be a strategy of dealing with this society. How did you choose the ConSec acquisition?
Well, one key point that we share is engagement with reenactment and reconstruction. The acquisitions are a combination of source materials, process documentation, and collaborative works. We felt the materials from your lab coincided with the mood and nostalgia we cultivate in memory of the M.L. Baker estate established in the 1970s.
How was the M.L. Baker Private Branch founded?
Well, it was founded to preserve the work of the unknown American landscape photographer M.L. Baker, who worked from 1964 to 1975, as far as we know. After we completed the preservation of her life's work, we expanded our mission, specializing in materials from the 60s and 70s with particular interest in obsolete materials.
A good portion of my own work has been interested specifically in 1970s iconography and sort of free associating around it. Oh, let me see what you have there. Is that an original from the
Yes, why don't I show it to you? This is a photo of M.L. Baker herself in October of 1969. We like to remember her as a combination of Sissy Spacek circa 1972 with a little bit of the leading lady from the cult classic Hell's Bells.
To offer you youth and fresh blood.
And I see you have some documentation from the archive.
Yes, this is a still from a recent performance we created over at the ConSec Lab, entitled Dusty Blue. And with this piece, we were specifically thinking about Dusty Springfield and Christy McVie as icons, and again, sort of free associating images around that. Messages in their music and in performing into a sort of Kenneth Anger-like scene, which I believe is sort of the jumping off point for a recent project, And the Good Life.
Yes, our recent merger and acquisition, which began in 1992 actually, and was just submitted into the private branch archives, closely examines the approach of Kenneth Anger, as well as classic 70s horror directors, including Dario Argento and Cronenberg.
Oh yes, especially David Cronenberg's masterpiece, The Brood.
Yes, masterpiece,
Yes.
indeed. And we can't forget Robert Altman's classic Three Women.
Yes, another classic
Truly
film.
classic.
Now, as I understand it, this process of reenacting the imagery and mood of those directors is a way of inserting ourselves, indeed performing into a sort of atmosphere.
Yes, an atmosphere that we feel very nostalgic for. So much so it has become embedded in our memories, and functions like a dream, confusing the line between reality and constructed memory.
Yes, it brings to mind the idea of trauma, this idea that we have to re-experience and invoke our trauma over and over again in order to cope with it.
Yes. It relates directly to the way Three Women is constructed. Did you know the film was based on a dream of Robert Altman's?
Oh, I had no idea. That makes so much sense with all the crazy twists and turns that plot takes.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I think we're interested at ConSec specifically in creating performance work that sort of creates its own poetic reality through images, which I think is the sort of direction that we've gone into with this project and The Good Life.
Yes, we're quite excited to watch this merger develop. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Yes, a pleasure.
Yes. I'm Lena Hawkins.
And I'm Michael DiPietro.
We look forward to future conversations.